to get to the most affected areas. As we drove towards the epicenter, we saw families walking in the opposite direction, displaced, carrying what little they could. Many were still wearing the same clothes from the night of the earthquake. Mothers and fathers were carrying their children, some with fresh bandages covering their injuries. The devastation only got worse as we got closer. Entire villages had been destroyed. Search and rescue operations in the area had been concluded by Friday. However, when we reached Mazar-e Dara, the smell of dead animals from the surrounding villages was overwhelming. We saw families whose lives had been shattered just within a few minutes. The earthquake had destroyed their homes, their farms, and their livelihoods, leaving them with absolutely nothing. The conditions on the ground there are dire. Some families are living in crowded tents, while many are sleeping under the open skies, exposed to rain and cold. There was no clean drinking water and no sanitation. With cholera endemic in the region and initial assessments indicating that 92% of these communities are practicing open defecation, the potential for a cholera outbreak is alarming. Scaling up WASH assistance, including clean water, soap, and latrines, is a top priority to prevent the worst outcomes. Today, I visited 3 IDP sites in Kaskunar district, meeting with affected communities and spending most of the day speaking with women and girls. Overall, the affected communities are struggling with basic survival. They urgently need water, tents, and food. Women in particular emphasize their need for water and adequate clothing, both for themselves and their children. These communities are devastated. Everyone I spoke with had lost multiple family members. Most of them are deeply traumatized and in need of psychosocial support. We also observed many malnourished mothers and young children. While nutrition screening and treatment services are ongoing in some sites, this needs to be urgently scaled up. In Afghanistan in recent years, women and girls have been pushed to the very margins of society and survival. We know from previous earthquakes and other crises that women and girls always bear the heaviest burden. This is why their needs must be central to our humanitarian response. The teams on the ground have been racing to the affected areas with assistance as fast as the difficult road conditions will allow, and the needs are overwhelming. OCHA is on the ground closely working with all humanitarian partners and engaging with communities to ensure that assistance reaches the most vulnerable, including women and girls. But time is running out. Any day, rainfall could cause flash floods in the valleys where the IDP sites have been established. Additional aftershocks could cause more severe landslides, cutting off access to communities still living near the epicenter. Also, at the end of October, the winter season will begin, and snow will cut off access to these mountain valleys. If we don't act now, these communities may not survive the coming winter. Additional funding is urgently needed. Without immediate support, the weeks ahead risk compounding this tragedy with preventable disease outbreaks, further displacement, and additional loss of life. While additional international support is coming in, flexibility and speed are critical. A response plan is being finalized and will be launched tomorrow to cover immediate life-saving needs. The Emergency Relief Coordinator has already released $5 million from the SURF, and the Afghanistan Humanitarian Fund will complement this with an allocation of another $5 million, but the scale of the devastation demands much, much more. Communities are asking for our collective support, not only to survive today, but to have the strength to rebuild their lives tomorrow. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today, and over to you in New York.
Thank you so much, Shannon O'Hara. Edie, please go ahead.
Thank you very much on behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association for doing this briefing. My name is Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. I have a couple of follow-up questions. First, you said that a number of villages have been destroyed. Is there actually any number of how many villages and how many people are displaced? And secondly, Can you tell us what kind of cooperation you've gotten from the Taliban in the search and rescue and immediate aftermath issues related to the quake? And thirdly, there have been reports that when the rescue teams came in, that men and some children, males, got rescued and that women and girls got left behind. Can you confirm that that's happened, and has it been reversed by now? Thank you.
Please go ahead, Shannon.
Thank you so much for these questions. In terms of the number of villages that have been destroyed and the number of families that have been displaced, assessments are ongoing. So we've been trying to reach the most affected areas with assessment teams first. That being said, out of the 411 villages that have been affected by the earthquake, we've only been able to assess 49 at this point. Based on initial assessments, though, we can say that, and these numbers are the numbers from the assessment teams, that we have approximately, sorry, I'm getting the latest numbers from the assessment, 5,230 homes are destroyed and 672 are damaged in Lagman province. Yes, overall, sorry about that. In terms of cooperation with the authorities, humanitarian coordination and partners report an enabling environment that's provided by the de facto authorities without major obstruction of humanitarian operations. The DFA, or the de facto authorities, have mostly led on search and rescue operations and road clearing with heavy machinery. And today, ANDMA, the Afghanistan National Disaster Management Authority, announced an end to its search and rescue operations. In terms of the reports of issues with the search and rescue operations, the women and that I've spoken to in my 5 days here have not reported any incidents to me that they were aware of. So I cannot confirm or deny these reports.
Just a quick follow-up. You said that 49 villages out of 411 have been assessed. Is the fact that so many have not been assessed a result of the difficulties in getting to them, or are there some other issues?
No, the issue is really the road conditions and the rural and remote locations. So as I mentioned earlier, it took us 6.5 hours to reach one location, which takes an entire team 1 day to get there and get back. So it's really hindering how fast we can assess these areas. And we're trying to increase the number of teams and do so as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Marian. Please go.
Hi, thank you so much for this briefing and the latest updates. This is Mariam Ramadi with Afghanistan International. What is being done for vulnerable groups such as women, children, and disabled who are right now affected in the areas that you described? And also the second question, I know you're facing budget issues and you're asking the member states to give more money to the places that are needed. But how can OCHA reassure these member states that these money will go to the people who are affected and the Taliban are not going to use the aid? Because that happened before, and some states are worried that this money will not, at least all of it will go to the people who are most affected after the earthquake. Thank you.
Thanks so much. In terms of reaching the most vulnerable these families and understanding who are the most vulnerable households, and they prioritize female-headed households, households with members that have a disability, and others that are in urgent need of assistance. So in terms of also we're ensuring that women are represented in health teams, and more women aid workers are supporting distributions along with nutrition, psychosocial, and other counseling services to increase the number of women that are participating in the humanitarian response. However, due to these remote areas and difficult journeys, including journeys by foot, so often teams will have to drive 6 hours and then walk 2 to 3 hours by foot. Fewer women were joining in the initial response efforts, but partners are increasing the number of women staff sent to these affected areas.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Also, my second question, please.
Can you repeat your second?
Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was asking, how can you ensure that the member states who are sending more money to OCHA or to UN offices in Afghanistan, how can you ensure them that this money will go directly to people who are mostly affected? Also, part of your, another follow-up regarding your response to my first question, today the Taliban didn't even let the UN employees, women employees, to enter UNIMA office in Kabul. In these rural areas, the rules and restrictions are even worse. You said women are mostly, you're trying to get women to distribute the aid and help people. I'm sure there are more restricted areas in terms of women being helped or women helping other people. How are you dealing with that?
In terms of your second question, so the funding that's provided is provided to humanitarian partners, and it goes to the UN and to those partners. It's channeled to them and not to the DFA, to the de facto authorities. In terms of access to women, I've been in the field now for the last 5 days, and I have yet to hear from women that they're not being reached with assistance. These are conservative areas, more conservative, and there are nuances and variations between communities. Some communities are more conservative than others, but women aid workers are able to engage with these communities and understand what their needs are and ensure that assistance is reaching them. Thank you.
Thanks. Pan, and after.
Thank you, Shannon. And you've sort of answered the question, but if I can double down a little on both Edie and Mariam's question, there were reports from the ground that because of the Taliban rules of unrelated men and women weren't being pulled out of the rubble, women weren't being helped. Your answer in many ways is that women are being sent to the front lines to resolve this. What is the workaround that OCHA is doing to make sure women may not be reporting it to you, but it's happening at the rescue sites? What is OCHA doing to be able to resolve that, and how many women are being sent as aid workers? Thanks.
You'll have to forgive me because the connection was bad. I did not hear the first part of your question. If you could repeat it.
It's a similar one to Edie and Mariam, which was follow-up on what is OCHA able to do to work around the restrictions of the Taliban on unrelated men and women, and we've seen reports from the ground about women not being pulled out of the rubble because of this. How do you solve it? How many women are being sent in the aid capacity? Thank you.
So we don't have the exact figures. The numbers are constantly changing. And as I noted, we're making concerted efforts to scale up the number of female humanitarian aid workers that are involved in this response. What I can say and what I can speak to is that in every site that I've visited over the last 5 days and in all of my missions, national Afghan women have been present as humanitarian staff and have actively participated and engaged in the response. Thank you.
Abdelhamid, please.
Thank you, Shannon. Abdel rescue teams arriving from the neighboring countries like Pakistan, China, maybe Russia, or any other country. And the second, have you noticed any kind of volunteers coming from the Afghani people to help rescue the victims? Thank you.
Thank you. We are not aware of any rescue teams that were sent in from other countries. We are aware of bilateral humanitarian assistance that's been sent from multiple locations, including neighboring countries, to help support these efforts. And yes, to confirm, Afghan local charities are leading on some of this response. They're providing hot meals in IDP sites. They're helping displaced families in local communities, and they're helping to support their neighbors that have been displaced. Yes.
Thanks. I'm just going to move online. If the car, you have a question?
Thank you. My question has been just asked by Abdul Hamid. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Do we have any further questions in the room? No? So I just want to thank again our guest, Shannon O'Hara. She's the head of strategy and coordination for OCHA in Afghanistan. She was briefing us from Jalalabad. Thank you so much for bringing the updates and for your time today. Thanks. And Stephane is going to brief you shortly. Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks so much, Shannon.
Happiest of Mondays, people. Happy Monday. Tomorrow's going to be a busy day. I'm warning you. All right, so a couple programming notes for tomorrow. At 10 a.m., tomorrow at 10 a.m., there'll be a briefing here to launch the Secretary General's report entitled Security We Need, Rebalancing Military Spending for a Sustainable and Peaceful Future. That is part of his Pact for the Future report. it's part of the reports mandated by the Pact for the Future. The Secretary General will be here to launch the report. He will deliver remarks. He will not take questions. He will be joined by Izumi Nakamitsu, Under Secretary General and High Representative for Disarmament Affairs, as well as Hao Liang-shu, the Acting Administrator for UNDP. They will be delighted to take your questions. Before you ask, we expect the Secretary General to hold his annual pre-GA press conference next week, likely Tuesday at noon, but we'll confirm that. Going back to tomorrow at noon, the incoming President of the General Assembly, Annalena Baerbock, will speak to you at the GA stakeout after her swearing in. I will be back here at the podium after she's done and after you've had all time to meander. 12 tomorrow, and then after she's done and you've meandered back here, we'll have the press briefing. I also wanted to. I've been getting a lot of questions over the weekend, and because of the high volume of misinformation regarding whether a vote had taken place in the General Assembly to move the high-level session of the General Assembly out of New York. And I just want to be clear that there was no such vote in the General Assembly, and I'm not aware of any preparations being made to move the General Assembly high-level session out of New York. Senior personnel appointment. I'm delighted to announce that the Secretary General is appointing Miroslav Jenča of Slovakia as his new special representative for Colombia and head of the UN verification mission. He succeeds, as you know, Carlos Ruiz Massieu of Mexico, who is now in Haiti, leading our mission in Haiti, and to whom the Secretary General is grateful for his dedicated service to the UN in Colombia. Mr. Jenča brings more than 35 years of experience in diplomacy, mediation, leadership, and oversight of UN peace operations, as well as close knowledge of the Colombian peace process and its regional and international implications. As you know, he is currently the Assistant Secretary General for Europe, Central Asia, and the Americas in our Department of Political and Peace Building Affairs, and we congratulate our friend Miroslav on this new appointment and wish him well. Turning to Ukraine, and I have a statement for you. The Secretary General strongly condemns the attacks by the Russian Federation on September 7th, which killed and injured several people, including children. The attack struck a government building in central Kyiv and damaged residential and other civilian infrastructure in the capital and other regions of Ukraine. The targeting of government institutions represents a further escalation in this conflict. Attacks against civilians and civilian infrastructure violate international humanitarian law. They are unacceptable and they must end immediately. The Secretary General reiterates his call for a full, immediate, and unconditional ceasefire as a first step towards a just, comprehensive, and sustainable peace in Ukraine, one that fully upholds Ukraine's sovereignty, its independence, and territorial integrity in line with the UN Charter, international law, and relevant United Nations resolutions. Just a bit more details from our OCHA colleagues in Ukraine. They said in the capital, Kyiv, one of the victims was an aid worker from a national NGO and partner of the Ukraine Humanitarian Fund, and as well as her 2-month-old child. Our humanitarian colleagues tell us that casualties were also reported in the cities of Zaporizhzhia, Odessa, Chernihiv, Kharkiv, Kremenchuk, Kryvyi Rih, and Kherson. Strikes also targeted energy infrastructure, disrupting power and water supplies ahead of the winter season. Repair crews are working to restore services, though temporary outages remain. Meanwhile, support to frontline communities continues. On September 5th, we, along with our partners, delivered aid, including medical kits and hygiene supplies, to some 1,000 people in several villages in the Donetsk region. This was the 10th convoy to that region this year. Turning to the situation in Gaza, hostilities are continuing to kill and injure people over the weekend. In just the past 24 hours, the Ministry of Health in Gaza reported 67 deaths and 320 injuries. This brings the total toll of people killed since the end of the ceasefire in mid-March to almost 12,000.